So Ryan and I put this podcast together because we believe people deserve meaningful and fulfilling lives. And the best way for them to do that is to become financially free. And the best way to do that is real estate investing. So I've got 19 rentals, 4 million in value. I didn't go broke buying rentals because I did the BRRRR strategy, recycle the down payment. And Ryan here, he got into wholesaling back in 2019. How many deals did you do since then?
Yeah, we're up over 450 transactions since 2019. And in that same stretch of time, we built up our portfolio. Right now we're at 63 doors, most of them all single family, and we did the BRRRR strategy on just about everything. So
yep. So
it's been good.
Podcast is to talk to great people like yourself so that people listening can understand the business and take action themselves. And I ran into you at Collective Genius where I think typically you got to be doing like 50, 100 deals, right? To be there. So congratulations on all your success. We're excited to hear about how it started.
So I got started back in, I was interested in real estate starting in 2009. Just kind of buying on market stuff, like one every 2 years, as I didn't know anything about it. So I was kind of learning that way.
Yeah.
I would say I got started like for real in 2014 buying off market.
Okay.
That's kind of what I define as like when I started, was 2014. My first deal was actually, it was just back in the day, you could send out yellow letters and get a big response in 2014. So I sent out 1,000 letters to landlords for duplexes and fourplexes, and ended up getting a fourplex that I then wholesaled off for about 40,000 profit at that point. So that was just kind of from there, and then continued to wholesale to that same company who bought the one, and then just kind of scaled it up from there. And, I'd kind of go slowly a little bit, but, last year we did 63 purchases, and then wholesaled, fair, like decent amount of those to get over that.
Amazing. So from 2019 through 2014, you bought one per year. So
2009 to 2009. Yeah.
So you had about 6, right?
Yeah. I would like, the first one I bought took 2 years because I didn't know anything. And I, had no clue how to do any of this stuff, or like hire contractors, do anything. So I even let it sit there for about 9 months, not doing anything, because I was just like, out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
Then I was like, let's do it again. Did that one, took a year. Then the third one took, it was like, as I was learning to do it, the fourth one took like 6 months, right? So just kind of figuring out what I'm doing, and then was like, let's do this for real, start trying to market that way.
So were those just on market deals that were turnkey, ready to go rental properties?
No. So they were, in that time, 2009 is way different than it is now. Obviously it's like, the one that I bought was $50,000, like a $50,000 duplex in Austin, which is crazy. And it was just on the market forever, right? Same thing. The next, these were property, like you could just buy anything, that needed a lot of work, at that time. And it was all on, there were tons of properties on MLS. So they were all flips. None of them were turnkey at all. And then I just ended up turning them over because I wasn't really in a position to be having long-term rentals at that point with my, I was just trying to make money that way.
Got it.
So
what was the unlock that happened in 2014 for you?
I started I was already interested in places like Bigger Pockets, like whatever, learning about that. And then I was competing for these on-market deals at the time because the market at that point was kind of coming back up from the recession. So then I started going out to these MLS listed properties, and I'd be checking them every day and, being one of the first people to offer on it. And I'd lose out on bidding wars to like 8 people, started realizing that other people were getting these off market. How do you do that? I kind of saw somebody saying, oh, I send out letters, figured out how to, hired a company to do that. They sent out 1,000 and I got a deal. That's not normal anymore. But at the time that was reasonable. So just kind of like taking the leap. That's like what, it's like figure out how to do it and then go take action.
Yeah. Or just like the frustration of losing out to properties that you were on and you were the first one to offer.
And it didn't
just
matter.
Losing. Correct.
Yeah. I mean, I would literally search. I also got my real estate license. I was on MLS, and I would just be searching days on market, equals 0, or the first day it's listed. And then we would go out there and, walk the property immediately, and I would still lose out on it, even though I was offering at that point, full price, whatever, even if it was full price, just finding out what the best deals are. So it's just being first on MLS wasn't really enough that, it forced me to go somewhere else, which is off market. And now it seems, it's like you got to go off market.
Yeah. That's where the best deals are. I mean,
Right.
So you backing up to when you first started, how many mailers, how many yellow letters did you send out?
Literally, I think there was somebody who was offering this is like a turnkey mail service that people would do, and it was send 1,000 letters 6 times, right, to probably the same 1,000 people.
Yep.
I think it might have been the first or the second one where I got that deal, and then as I sent more, I got like 2 or 3 more off of that same 1,000 people.
So that first batch,
yeah,
in your first deal, 40 grand's pretty good to start off with.
Yeah, I was thrilled, obviously.
How quickly after that did it start flowing for you? Did it take a while to build up consistency, or?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of took that money and was like, okay, let's immediately, I'm not just gonna like rest. It's like, let's just put all that back into it. So, I just always did direct mail for years after that. So I think I did like, 6 or 7 deals that year. And then the next year, like 12 or 13, like it wasn't, I didn't go, some people go from like 6 deals to like 60 deals in a year, they scale really fast. I'm not like that, because I would just do the entire thing by myself.
Yeah.
So I was kind of my own, like, speed limiter.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah.
So
when you were doing this, was there a moment that you could go back and look at and say, okay, this was a big hiccup? This was something that kind of set you back a little bit?
Not really hiccups. I mean, I think just kind of what I did notice was that when I was wholesaling these deals to these people, that they were making a lot more money long term than I was, for sure.
Yeah.
So I was like, I kind of, and that's not really my my philosophy at the time was, I don't really want to hold these rentals because it doesn't really make any sense to me. They weren't really cash flowing that well. Even in 2014, like it would still be worse than the 1% rule or right at it. And that was kind of, so I was like, well, I don't really want to hold these because I don't think they'll cash flow. So, but the downside is that the people I wholesaled to made 10 times as much as I would in a year, on it, just because they,
really rapid appreciation.
Yeah, this is Austin.
Austin.
Yeah,
right?
Austin in 2015 is like, buy anything, you're a genius, right?
Yeah.
So that I forced myself at one point to hold a few rentals, and that made a big difference because then they appreciate. I was like, well, I'm wholesaling. I wholesaled 15, and I made myself keep 4. And that made a difference after I had like a bankroll built up of like money to use.
How long did you consistently stick with sending mail?
Forever. I mean, forever. That's still.
You still do it?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. The direct mail it just always has worked. So when I was doing it all by myself, I would send it, and then as I would kind of like go through the the leads, like work the leads myself, like I would fall off of sending it for like 6 months or something like that, as I flipped the property,
right?
Or
Yeah.
something, because I was like, well, I can't buy another one right now, too busy. So I would, and then once I would get back on it, you'd get another deal. I mean, it's really like the most consistent thing, and I still like it because it's just the quality of lead is so much higher than anything else on direct mail. So it's really, you're just dealing with way less people who are just like completely wasting your time. You'd send out, even now it's like you send out 10,000 mailers, you're only going to get like 30 calls,
right,
or 40 calls. It's like a very high value lead when it comes in.
Yeah.
So that's just like the time aspect of it, especially as someone, like if you're doing the whole thing yourself, like the time is everything. I don't have that much time, so direct mail was the best for sure.
I always feel like direct mail is like the passive version of any
Super
marketing
passive.
because you can just send out mail and then you're waiting.
Yep.
You wait for them to call you, and then the next part of the process starts after that phone call. But you're not having to sit there and dial a bunch of people. You're not having to text. And I know, to your point, time is everything. I don't have time to sit there and call all day long to get a lead.
Right.
But I do have time to take those leads and send mail and then go on and work on the other things and wait for that call to come in.
Yeah.
Were you ever tempted to jump, or did you ever like find that, let me try to cold call, or let me try this texting thing and see what that's about? Were you ever tempted by that?
Yeah. In 2019 is when late 2019 is when I did start doing that. And it's still like, I guess if I had to start all over again with absolutely nothing, I would do that. I would cold call. What I did was I actually took a list, and it's basically, I didn't think of it like this, but it's just list stacking, which was I took the county tax list that had the highest amount of, and I sorted by who owes the most property tax in the county. Then I just called down that list, and it was like, it was just very easy at that time to do that. So and it's also free.
Yeah.
All of that is free. You're just
Right.
calling off your phone. You're getting the list for free. It's so the cold calling I do love, like locating people who are really hard to reach. I mean, those
Right.
people are really hard to reach sometimes because they're estates, they're inherited properties. They're like, they don't want to be, if they're 10 years behind on their property taxes, it's usually like for a reason they're hard to find. So I started doing that in late 2019, early 2020, and did like it. And then I've kind of like, so we still do that a lot.
Gotcha.
For sure, is locating. But yeah, direct mail, it's like, it is very passive, like you said. And they're not only that, but they'll call you and they'll be like, let's meet at the property tomorrow. It's like, all right, this is,
or even today.
that's as fast as we can go.
Yeah, we get it. We get it often
go.
where they're like, yeah, I got the postcard. I'm like, yeah, well, when are you available? Can you come out right now? Like, yeah.
Yeah.
And usually those are like the most motivated people when they call you. They're taking the first action to engage this, which is always the best to me.
Yeah.
They engage me. We go out immediately and look at the property. The chances of you getting a contract even that day are pretty darned high.
They really are.
And that's anytime, like for our team, I'm like, hey, if somebody calls in, schedule the appointment as fast as possible, because literally in a competitive market, it could be you versus like 5 or 6 other wholesalers.
Yeah.
The first person to get there and the first person to get the camaraderie built up with the person and to get the person presented a good quality offer and then follow it up with a contract is winning the deal.
Yeah.
So don't be the last one.
Exactly.
Have you ever had somebody say they sold the property to you because they liked your hair better or your whatever better?
Yeah, absolutely.
Nothing to do with the house.
Doesn't make sense to me exactly, but yes. I mean, because it's like, I'm like, why would they? But they're like, yeah, I just liked you. I'm like, who would like me
How do
like
you
that?
know?
But I guess like, you're just there figuring out the problem. You're, also when you're on an appointment, you're walking through the house. So whenever I would make an offer on an appointment, it would be no option period or no due diligence period.
Yeah.
Because it's like, hey,
You don't need it. You're there.
I'm right here. And my pitch was always, if you sign here, this is over, and I'll see you 30 days from now at closing.
Yeah.
And so you don't have to worry about it. It's just like sign here and it's all over. And a lot of times that is a big deal for them.
When you first started, I'll refer to myself because when I first started, that moment of getting the contract signed and then be like, okay, we'll see you in 30 days.
Right.
I leave there. I'm confident at the time that I'm telling you, like you being the seller, I'm confident like, hey, I'll see you in 30 days. I leave there and I'm like, oh God, now the real work starts now we got to find a buyer. Did you ever feel like that?
A lot of those appointments that I was going on, I was actually just closing it on myself.
Gotcha.
So I would, and then if it had a problem, I would just clean it up, and then like figure out the problem and then sell it on MLS as it sat.
Yeah.
Like wholetailing is what it's referred to as. But so a lot of those appointments where I was buying it with no option period, I wasn't even shopping it around.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I know I can.
You knew.
And I was actually going to go through with flipping it at that point.
Gotcha.
I still think that, yes, now when we do those appointments and, or if we ever go on appointments, which is not that often anymore, but when we do go on appointments and it's with no option period, then it's like, okay, now all this other stuff has to kick into gear and get to work. But we're still closing. It's like, we had somebody last week do that exact, choose us because we said no option period at all.
Right.
We did 2% earnest money because we just knew we were going to buy it. Even if we can't wholesale it to someone else, we are buying that property.
Right.
And that was what they wanted. I mean, they had other offers that were 48-hour option period for a little bit more money. and they went with ours with no option period.
Yeah.
So even though we had never actually seen the house, we just knew we could make it work at this price no matter what.
I know I was nervous because I was like, okay, what happens if I don't find a buyer?
Right.
Like, how do I get out of this? And I know that's consistent across people that are getting into the game because they ask that question all the time. Like, what are you going to do if you don't find a buyer?
Right.
It's like, well, you have options, but what would you advise?
Don't offer a price. If you're telling them that you're definitely going to close on it no matter what, then offer them the price where you're going to close on it no matter what. I mean, like the idea that you're, that's it. I mean, you got to be able to like perform and do what you say you're going to do.
Right.
Do what you say you're going to do. If that's the deal. I mean, if that's not the, if you're not making that commitment and promise, then that's another story.
Or if your intent all along is like, hey, I'm wholesaling this thing, so I'm not going to be the end buyer. Communicating that to them at the very beginning, so there is no, wait, what?
Yeah.
There, you don't want that moment to hit you. Just tell them.
Yeah. They're not moving.
Exactly.
Out.
Yeah.
I mean,
like,
that was.
Sorry, I'm not going to be able to close, and they're already out of the house, and you've created a heck of a storm.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, how do you say that?
Which part?
How do you tell them, oh, I'm not going to be the end buyer? You say you do tell them that?
Yeah. Usually if it's like, hey, that's where we make them an offer where we're saying we're closing this no matter what. Mm-hmm. And if they're like, we can't make this, they can't make that work. To offer then it's higher. Like, well, hey, I'm not saying that we can make this work. We're going to do everything we can, obviously, to get this sold and everything. I'm just telling you that if you want the 100% done deal, it's here. Mm-hmm. And if you want their price, which is totally fair, if they're like, I have to be at this price for whatever reason, then just be honest, like, okay, this is not a done deal, and you can just say, whatever your closing ratio is at that point. I mean, ours is like 75% or 80% or something like that.
Most of the time, are they cool with that?
Yeah, they're completely logical. It's one of those things where people who think that that's a weird conversation are people who have not had the conversation. Yeah. It's like, the way I explained it, we close 75, 80% of the time, long run, I'm telling you we have to be at this price, but if you need to be here, we'll still take a chance on it.
100%.
Yeah.
75%.
Yeah, 70%. Yeah. And if it's like, if you were telling me twice that price, I would say 1%. Like, so do you want to take the one? Like, I don't think so. Yeah. And neither do we, but it's like just being honest about it. I mean, the worst deal I ever did was actually exactly what I went through the property, made them an offer that was a done deal here. They're moving out of the house. So it's like, I'm not ever backing out. Yeah. Right. And then this is in 2022 and the market just started going down. It was actually a 3-month closing. Wow. And the market started going down mid contract. Yeah. Oh my God. And I was like, and this is a family of 5 or 6 and they were moving out of the house. And I was like, well, I'm still going to buy it. Cause the earnest money was 1%. Yeah. And I was like, I can't they were literally moving out of the house. And it's like, I can't leave them high or dry. I think I lost like $50,000 on that. On a flip.
I'm sure it's come up since then, though. Did you hold on to it?
Oh, no. A flip. I'm saying it was a flip. It was a flip. And it was like, and it was the entire value of what I lost was like during escrow. And I had only realized it like a week or 2 before closing. I was like, I cannot bail on these people. Like, I don't think I really realized exactly how much I was going to lose at that point. But like, the point is that I still went through with it and bought the house because like they had made all these plans. Like, we're already moving out. And it's like, after 3 months, you can't just like... No. Leave somebody high and dry like that. No.
Yeah, that's great. You're a good person. Now, for those explaining or those hearing that, oh, you lost money doing this, can you explain exactly how what was the 3-month period? Was that?
Well, so a lot of times you would like, what you can do is, for people who are living in a house, you can be like, I'll buy it. You would sign a contract today with a closing that's 3 months from the time you sign the contract because they need to find a place to move. Right. That's like very common. The downside to that is that, they start making like a lot of, like they're making a lot of plans. So these are more owner occupied houses. Like you wouldn't, like if it was a vacant house, it wouldn't be the same.
You did a deal with somebody and you said we can close 3 months in the future.
Yes.
Got it. So that could be an issue if the market is a volatile one, which Austin kind of is.
Yeah. It worked out really well when it was going up a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you'd lock in a fantastic price.
Or it would go up in the 3 months, or whatever. But, so yeah, it went down in the 3 months. And again, it's like,
I would call that a hiccup.
Yeah, that's a hiccup.
Yeah.
That is a hiccup. Yeah. So
how many times has that happened out of all the deals that you've done?
I think I've only lost money on like 2. And they were actually right at that exact time. Like, so that was it. But yeah, I mean, cause usually if you're making, I mean, a lot of times if you're making 100% done deal offer, like it's also flipping it, you're not exposed to the long-term stuff as much.
Yeah.
Like as you would a rental.
Okay. So when you closed that finally, you closed higher than what the market valued it at. Why'd you go through with the flip? Why didn't you just hold it? And then you wouldn't have lost money in the long run.
That property didn't make sense. It was a 4,500 square foot single family house.
Big one.
Yeah, it's like the
Big
rental
one for
numbers
Austin, for sure.
Yeah. The rental numbers didn't really make sense.
Yeah,
it was like
I gotcha.
It was like a $500,000 house, which isn't even that crazy considering it was so huge. But it also wouldn't have rented for anywhere near that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I mean, it is like it would have been better if it was like a 2,000 square foot house for way less. So it just only really made sense for an end buyer. Anyway, or like a family.
Yeah.
So,
do you go on the appointments yourself now?
no, we do almost entirely virtual. We're like 99.9% virtual.
Are
at this
you
point.
all in Austin?
We do all over Texas actually. So
All
we
over
do,
Texas,
Yes,
gotcha.
we do Austin. We do all the major metros. So Austin, Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, and then we're kind of also just taking random properties like in rural Texas at this point as well. So we're just buying them. Even in the Austin properties, we don't go on appointments anymore. We're just all phone based.
All right.
Explain that.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
What he said.
Okay. So it's just, I mean, it's kind of started because the first time you buy, like, there were times we would buy properties and I would be doing it and I would never go see the house for whatever reason. Like I bought a property one time from someone who just said, I'll sell you the property at this price, but we can't ever meet. It was just like very.
That sounds like a scam.
Sounds sketchy.
It was just like she just didn't want like anybody.
Was it during COVID or anything like that?
I don't remember. I don't think it was during COVID. I just think she just didn't really want to see people to see how she was living.
Yeah,
which is very common. She was like, I'll sell. Like she allowed me to have somebody go through and take photos.
Potentially, was she like a hoarder or like? Why
Yeah,
was she
it just was rough.
self-conscious about
It was just a rough house.
Got it.
It was just a rough house.
we all know what those are.
In a nice neighborhood. Like it was a rough house in a nice neighborhood.
I got it.
So she just didn't want that. So, after doing a couple where like I never met the seller at all, never saw the house before, and was able to comp it and price my offer based on photos they sent me or whatever, kind of just like ended up buying a house in another city just that I also never saw. Then it kind of just went from there. It's kind of like just removes like a limiting.
You have to be pretty confident in your comping ability.
Definitely.
Though, because like I could do that, not know anything about the market and just be like, oh yeah, that's a $80,000 house. I'm going to put 30 into. I can do that.
Right.
But knowing what the house is worth is kind of a good key component to make that process work. How do you build confidence in getting comps?
Well, I mean, I have MLS. I pay for MLS access all over the state. Texas is a non-disclosure state.
Right.
So it's not like other ones where it's all public. Like there's no public record of sales.
Yeah.
So,
It's Missouri too.
Yeah. Okay. So that's very like, I have to be a member of all of those to have MLS access.
Yeah.
If we don't have MLS access, it is hard. For sure. We have to like contact a local agent who, we bought one in El Paso. I contacted a local agent and was like, hey, can you send me a CMA for this specific area?
Right.
Street, just send them a map, make it really easy. They'll do it. I then gave him the lease listing in return.
Oh,
whatever.
nice. So he
yeah,
didn't charge you for that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's free. I mean, if you make it really easy on them, it will take them 5 minutes, and so do that. But yeah, I mean,
How do you make it easy on them? What do you mean?
Yes, if you make it easy on them by in other words, like I did a Google map and then outline the areas so that he could just outline those areas, and I told him exactly, last 365 days sold. Send me all of those. Don't do anything else. And then he could just make it like you're doing it for him.
Oh, God. You didn't even tell him the address. You just told him
I told him the
area.
address, yeah.
And then you did your own comping based
Yes.
on his data.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah, exactly. And so, it's just, if you're going to, I mean, especially, and then I was like, hey, when I sell it and whenever that is, and if I lease it out, you can have it and whatever. Also like wrote him a great review on Google. Like there's stuff you can do to like provide value to them.
How did you meet him? How did you select him?
Oh, just Google. Cool. Top. I was El Paso, top agents in El Paso.
Nice.
And then call a couple and just say, hey, I've got a really easy thing for you. can you comp this? I offer to, you can offer to pay them like $100 or something. That like a lot of times they're just like, who cares, whatever. It doesn't matter.
If you're a realtor too, like they're gonna have trust, a little bit of trust built with you,
right,
automatically.
Yes, yeah, I guess that's true. Don't, yeah, exactly. I'm an agent, blah blah blah.
Right.
Take it from there. But the comping when you have the MLS access is like, I mean, that's what I do all day.
Right.
Anyways, still like for the company, like I don't take any of the phone calls. Like we have acquisitions people now who do that. My job is still the comping. So I mean, if how many properties have I comped to this point? Like 10,000 probably.
Right.
So
your market pretty well. So
yes, I mean I can just look at it and figure out what a comp is and whatnot, and
All right, so you took this person's house and you did the competitive market analysis. You're like, in perfect condition, it's worth 400,000, whatever.
Sure.
And then you look at all of her pictures and you're like, okay, it needs kitchens, bathrooms, floors, paint, and a new roof.
Yeah.
So are you just slapping $60 a square foot on this, done? Or do you literally line item all those things out?
I definitely don't line item it.
Yeah.
I don't even do I don't really, other people are much better at this than me. The rehab budget by square foot. I don't have a calculation like that. I'm mostly looking at the age of the house at this point. Like, is it 2000s, 80s, 60s, 40s, and it's like, then I'll just be, just ballparking roughly, if it's a 2000 house right now and it's 2,500 square feet, it's like, we can fix it all up for $30,000. It's not going to be 80. It's not going to be 10 either. But that's completely different if it's a 1960s house, because then all the windows need to, it's like, so just based on experience, I go off the decade the house is built a lot of times, and then kind of do a ballpark to the nearest 10,000 on it. Depends what kind of dollar amount we're talking about.
So if it's in the 80s, you're saying that's $40 per square foot or something like that?
So if it was an 80s house, I would probably be budgeting about, if they've not done anything and I walk in the house and if I'm walking in the house and it looks like 1980, then it's probably going to be about 80,000, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000.
But it's got to be based on the square footage.
Most of the houses that age are about the same square footage.
2,000.
Yeah,
1,500,
yeah, exactly.
2,000.
In the 80s, they weren't doing that many like 900 square foot houses. They also weren't doing like 4,000 square foot houses as much. So it's like, yes, I'm sure there is a calculation that probably comes out to the exact same thing I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Roughly.
Most of the houses I own are from 1910.
Okay.
So this automatically throws me out. Like, I don't know how to...
We don't even have ones that old here. The oldest house I think I've ever, like Austin didn't really even exist in like practically before 1925.
1910, 1920. That is like common in the stuff that I own.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
let's ask
actually
him, what's
the first house that I have bought that was built in the 1980s is the one that we live in now. Like, that's the first one, and it's like a dream in comparison to all these other houses that we've had to fix.
How many square feet is it?
The house we live in
Might
now,
be personal. I don't know.
I think it's 2,500 square foot.
Okay, so it's close to what he said.
Yeah.
He guessed.
Okay.
Yeah, and all the houses that we have that are like 1910, 1920 are sub 1,000 square feet.
Yeah,
So-
they didn't do that in the 80s. Just
And it had
1910.
one bath. Yeah. And it's
One
like,
bath.
why do we need two? Right. Yeah.
So funny. Another Collective Genius member, Rob Needlinger, he was like, "Yeah, I just make it cash flow of $500 a month." That's his analysis. And when I post a video online, people are always like, "Huh, but what about taxes? What about the mortgage? What about this? What about that? You didn't include that in your video." But to analyze a deal, it's like you're gonna be wrong on those, right? Because like you can get as precise as you want, and then unexpected things happen, and it wasn't right.
Right.
And also you just spend so much time doing all those detailed analysis, and for it to be wrong, it's like, that's not worth it. Let's just come up with a simple way to decide if this is a good deal or not, which is what you've done too, and what it sounds like you kind of do as well.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a cool thing I noticed from hearing you guys talk. How many times is the rehab budget wrong? Like for you?
I mean,
You leave enough margin, so it's not a big deal if it
it's
is
wrong,
wrong.
it isn't wrong that much.
that's where like the age, again, we go back to that, but then it's also HVAC, roof, and HERE foundation, if I see it's a 1980s house and then it also needs new roof and HVAC, it's like, well, I'm bumping that to the top of that budget range of 80 or whatever. If it's, we have a 2-year-old roof and a 2-year-old HVAC, it's like, well, then it might be at the lower end, so how much, how often does it go over? I mean, obviously you can find stuff, but it's never, you're never going to, if it's a 1980s house, you're not going to spend 130,000 like ever if your goal is flipping it. Now, if you're going to live there, you can go insane and do whatever you want. But, if you're like, if it's a flip, you just know you're not, going to have to ever do that really. I mean, I can't imagine it.
But the biggest thing is you leave enough so that if there is unexpected stuff, it's not a big deal. And you're not like expecting it to pencil out exactly to the dollar amount.
Right. I'm not a pencil person. Yeah, I can't. I'm not like I don't even work with
ballpark is good.
Yeah. A ballpark, especially, well, this is because that's my job still. So I control it and it's my company. You know what I mean? It's like if I were handing it off to somebody else, then we'd probably have something like that. But eventually, but it's because it's still in my hands that it's like, well, as long as I am okay with it, that's fine. Whatever we're doing. But
who's all in your company now? You said we look at properties, so I assume there's lots of other people.
Yes, so we have 3 acquisitions people who are just taking all the calls, making offers, and then we have some other, like we have one dispo person, we have some lead generation for overseas VA, stuff like that. So, total and we have a project manager. There's 10 people total. And then there's additional like 5 or 6 lead gen people. So,
Are the lead gen people, what are they doing? Because you pull data and you send mail, right?
Yeah. So
what else are they doing?
Yeah. So we do cold calling. We use a service for that. Then we also have some people targeting essentially, doing like what I refer to as manual dialing, which is like locating one-off people, like I said, on the property taxes, that kind of stuff. So, the overseas people, they're doing more of the manual, like they're doing the like, specific properties, find this list of people essentially who should be highly motivated.
Got it.
It's like, we're not doing that for regular, high equity people who just have a lot of equity in their house. Like, no, because there's too many of those. But if, you made a list of just the most motivated people, like that's who we would give that to. So there's continuously trying to reach them.
I'm going to ask a question that I likely know the answer to, but it's good to say it. So you said you had 3 acquisitions versus 1 disposition. How come you don't have them matching?
So we used to use a company just to dispo all of our deals for us.
Right.
So we just focus on the acquisitions.
Oh, really?
You don't need, I don't think there's not enough deals. There's way more talking on the phone to sellers on the acquisition side. To me, it's like, so they're, the dispo person's only working, and they can work 10 deals at a time or whatever, but
it's easy.
Yeah. But a acquisitions person, I mean, like they're
going on appointments.
Yeah. They're getting 10 new leads each a day.
Yeah.
And like their pipeline is enormous. Right. Like, I guess that's the difference. A dispo person, thinking about it out loud, is like a dispo person's pipeline is pretty small.
Yep.
An acquisitions pipeline is insane.
Well, on disposition, once you actually get to a point where you've built your buyers list and you've put consistent buyers on your list,
it's easier.
Yeah, I mean, you get the property, and within a couple text messages, the deal's gone.
Yes,
but that takes time to do.
Yeah,
and so like the 100% backing up what you just said. There's so much more involved on acquisitions than there is on dispo. Once you have dispositions established, but it does take time to get that buyer's list built up. So there is a little bit of work on the front end, but once it's there, it's there.
Right.
Acquisitions, it's a lot.
I mean, you could,
and it's literally the lifeblood of the business.
Exactly.
If you don't get the deal, you have no deals to dispo.
You can dispose of it a lot of different ways. You could close on it and sell it on MLS. That's a dispo. I mean, it's like, so, but it's I would, way rather spend my energy disposing of deals on MLS than having an acquisitions person trying to acquire on MLS.
Yeah.
It's like, so, there are real, I mean, and dispoing it by just putting it on MLS after you've bought it is like very low maintenance relatively. You're just a realtor at that point.
Yeah.
So that's why, I mean, I can't imagine having it even. I don't know, but I'm sure there are people who do and have their reasons, but I don't know.
I mean, when we first started bringing people in to alleviate some of this off of my plate, to me, it was like I had 1 acquisitions and 1 dispositions, but then it was like, really doesn't make sense to have 1-to-1.
Yeah.
Because and even when I had the dispo guy, I was typically the one that'd be like, hey, send that to this person. they'll buy it. So it's like, why do I need, like, that is such an easy thing now. I spent the first 3 years building that.
Yeah.
Why? So for us, we're structured just acquisitions, and we dispo it as a team. Like, whoever wants to dispo it can dispo it. You know who our buyers are. Just get it gone.
Yeah, that's easy.
So,
yeah.
but yeah.
Wow.
That's
Crazy.
I've never the team dispo.
Yeah, I mean,
so
we all.
what if
love
everyone
that.
takes the day off, or everyone thinks, well, because this is a real thing. In like the E-Myth book, they're always like, the fake business was all about pies, and then they always like group ordered inventory. But then when they got really busy, everyone was like, oh, I'm so busy. Oh, I know they'll order the inventory, and then nobody orders the inventory, and they run out of pie crusts.
I mean,
and it's because nobody had the responsibility.
It's
So
different.
how do you guys prevent that?
It's different for us because the person that's getting the deal also has the ability to send a text to a person right away.
They have the ability, but they have the accountability, or like the.
Yeah, I mean, you got to have the right people on the team. Like, you
Do
can't
you
just
incentivize
trust
them so
anybody.
that they don't make any money unless the deal closes?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. So if they got the deal going, nobody else selling it, they're going to take
They
ownership.
probably double up on it if it's
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
If they have the
So
chance
much
to
is
get
powered
both
by
sides,
incentives
yeah.
as like a company owner,
Yeah.
I feel like.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, we used to even like I said, we would just use so we would actually give all of our deals to New Western previously as a wholesaling company,
Right.
as a dispo company. So that was essentially our dispo arm, was just having good relationships with New
Do
Western
you have to
agents.
split 50-50 on those?
No,
Or
they
was
would they mark it up to whatever they would do, and like, so
Okay.
if they sold it and made a whole bunch of money, then I get the
cool.
same.
You still
But
get- yeah.
yeah, so we would do that for a bit, and that's because like I've never really dispoed stuff personally, so I didn't really wasn't able to hire for it
Right.
to train someone on something I'd never done.
Right.
So we had a good run doing that
Yeah.
before we ended up bringing one person in house essentially to do it. But we were doing that up until like a few months ago, you know, and it's like the easiest thing in the world. You just send it to them, and as long as you understand the relationship that they are not actually buying it,
Right.
just using them for their buyers list, because in certain markets they have an insane buyers
That
list.
seems like it might be a little bit of a bottleneck, though. Like, what's your accountability and follow up on making sure that it gets done?
Which part?
You send it off to New Western.
Oh,
like,
when
how do
we were
know?
doing that, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's just you develop relationships with like one person in an
Yeah.
area, and then like so you'd give it to them, and you'd have to trust them, to be able to do it right. So part of my job would be vetting which person to trust, essentially. So
Trust me.
I like you said you hired to get stuff off your plate.
Yeah.
Sounds like you did the same.
Right.
You didn't want to hire a dispo person when you hadn't done it yourself.
right,
You have to hire stuff that you know how to do. I see frequently, talking to a guy yesterday. He was like, man, I hired this person at cold call, started off great, but I had to let him go. They were doing 300 calls a day. I was like, have you cold called? He's like, no. I was like, well, if you cold call, you would know you could do like 150 an hour.
Yeah.
So if he's doing 300 a day, he's not telling the truth about what he's doing. And it ends up being a waste of time and then waste of money. Then also the recruitment process has to start all over again, which is kind of embarrassing if you had a process and some people didn't make it. Now you wish you took the second person in your queue and maybe they've got a job already now. So
Right.
I really believe in that. You guys said it as well. So I just wanted to call that out, that's a great way to hire and operate, is you have to at least have figured it out at some level yourself before you have somebody get it off your plate.
absolutely. Cannot agree with that more. That is, exactly. It's like, how can you teach someone to do something you've never done? I mean, like when, exactly. I mean, it's like when I did, before we hired a dispo person, it's like, you got to follow a process just for a little bit. I mean, try it for a month or something, just so you can see like what this is like, instead of saying, I know it's possible, go do it. It's like, that's
I think the exception is parenting. I think that's the exception.
You hired somebody to parent your kids?
No, parenting is the one thing that you might think you're good at, or someone might think they're good at telling you how to do it, and their experience is not going to be your experience. So,
Well, no, I'm just saying you do the thing yourself before you hire someone
Yes.
else to come do it for you.
true.
That's all I'm
Yes.
saying.
on anything.
Yeah.
It's the easiest thing to hire is the thing that you know how to do the best, because you're like, I know what this looks like when it's done right, and I know what this looks like when it's done wrong.
Right.
What was your first hire?
Acquisitions.
Okay.
Yeah, acquisitions. I did the whole thing by myself.
Man, that's like a tough thing to hire for.
That is.
Well, I'd already done it for 10 years. I'd
Understood.
taken all the calls every single time. So it was very easy to teach
How quiet did your phone get after you made that?
That was amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like,
It- it's like one of
Did
the
you
hardest
feel like
things.
things were broke? Like, oh man, what? Nothing is coming in. Why is my phone not ringing?
Well, I'm such a micromanager that I
would
still get
ring it too?
notifications when they would text, and if they texted him, I still get my phone is buzzing right now with text notifications.
Yeah, my phone. I keep my phone on the inbound calls too, because it's like I want to know when stuff
Which
comes
is really
in.
stupid, but
Right.
I
People
can't let it go.
respect what you inspect. So if they
Yes.
know you're totally, out, they may not be running it the same way
it's
anymore.
true.
You don't have to micromanage, but also, a weekly check-in where there's a scorecard reviewed, et cetera, like minimum amount of checking in, I think you should be doing with all your employees and direct reports.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's easy for us because we're in the same room.
Acquisitions is really
Yes.
hard
Yeah.
to hire for. That's really impressive that you were able to do that as your first hire. Right? Because if you think about it, you could have hired an assistant, and the assistant could have done stuff. You could pay somebody to do your dry cleaning, book your flights, take notes on inbound calls, et cetera, for like $15 an hour.
Right.
But you can't pay $15 an hour to have acquisitions done, because if you do, maybe that person's not skilled enough and you waste a bunch of money on marketing with leads that they fumbled,
Yeah.
So it's like, how did you find somebody really skilled at acquisitions and that worked well?
Yes. So I'll back up a little bit. I did hire lead gen people first.
Okay.
These are cold
That- yeah.
callers,
Okay.
which
Yep.
I guess I count.
But that was virtual, so it didn't feel
Virtual.
like a hire, like a full-time
That's
hire.
why I
right?
view it as that. Yeah. So we already had lead gen, which I had hired for previously. The acquisitions, it just felt like, so again, all of the, up to this point, I'd been all direct mail and then a little bit of cold calling service that I was handling. The cold calling service is a lot of leads, the exact opposite of direct mail. So it's like I was just getting bombarded with unqualified leads, but understood at that point that, for the acquisitions person, like what they should be saying, the kind of script they'd be using, like, the kind of like how the conversations go. So, I mean, when I'm training the person the first time, it was just all of the calls are on speakerphone, and, we're in a co-working space, and he's talking to them. I'm writing stuff on the whiteboard, what to say now. Cause at that point, I've taken hundreds of calls. Yeah. It's like, whatever, thousands of calls at that point. So it's like, I can tell where this conversation is going, and he's smart enough where he can learn on the fly and be, interpreting what I'm writing on a whiteboard, and, go through and figure out why we're getting there.
You probably had some shorthand, right, to react quickly.
And my handwriting's terrible, so he had to be really smart, to figure it out. So, but I don't know, just like that came naturally, because it's like I've already done this for so long. I wouldn't be able to teach someone like how to be a transaction coordinator or title work. It's like I don't get that, But that at least I could do, because I took all the calls for like 10 years.
Yeah,
So,
but also, did he need to be a certain personality type or
for sure.
background, or like what? How did you figure that out? How did you find the right person there?
well, so I posted the job on Wise Hire, and then they have, at the time where they were using Disc Profile, and it matched
personality
well.
test.
Yeah,
type
just a
thing.
personality test. Then went to meet with them at a coffee shop, and it was just kind of like, I don't know. I mean, I am the luckiest guy in the world that I met this person.
He's still with you?
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm the luckiest guy in the world that I met this guy. But as the first hire, that's the thing. As my first hire, that this is the first person I hired, I'm the luckiest guy in the world. But it was just kind of immediately clicked, and I was like, this guy reminds me of me, being like, I just want to work hard a lot. I remember this person emailed me, or he took his initial phone call interview, and I was like, at 7:00 at night, and I was like, oh, is this a good time? He's like, yeah, I'm on my way to my anniversary dinner with my wife. I was like, let's talk tomorrow. Not a big deal. I was like, no. I have to do this right now, or else, my wife knows I'll be talking about this all the time. And I was like, that's exactly what I would be thinking when I was his age.
So you were on the way to your wife's?
No, he was on the way to he took his initial interview.
Oh, so then you were like, oh yeah.
I was like, no. Yeah. Like, let's talk tomorrow. Like, this is obviously like a important night for you, whatever. And he was like, no, like, let's do it right now. Like, I like work, and this is my deal, and I was like, that's me, I was like, so it just kind of clicked, like our personalities clicked like immediately, because that reminded me of something I would do when he was 25 at the time. It's like, when I was 25, that's what I would do.
Mm-hmm.
So like I said, very lucky.
Dang, he got married young.
No, I didn't get married. He did. Yeah, he did. Yeah. No, not me. But yeah, so that's kind of what, anyways, that it's like having a good personality match.
Yep.
To me is like the huge part.
Yes. So sometimes I see people are struggling they partner up with somebody else for camaraderie.
Yeah.
But then neither one of them really know what they're doing. Then somebody figures it out, and then they have success, and then it ends in like a bad split because they really got into business to have the freedom. But when you have a business partner and half of your profits are going to that other person, it often comes that like maybe they're not pulling the same weight as you are, and you resent them for that.
Right.
And so I want to talk about like, you partner with your wife. That makes a lot of sense. Do you have any partners?
No.
Got it.
Because I just can't, I mean, exactly what you said is what I'd be terrified about.
Was there ever a time where you just felt like you needed like somebody else, like because you're just out there on your own?
Yeah, I mean, not for the partnership aspect of it, but I definitely hit a ceiling, and that's why I even hired in the first place the acquisitions person. The first
like,
person.
Did you struggle at all at any point?
Yeah, well, I mean, I would say
This is all too perfect. Can we hear some of
what I would, if I had to do over again, the difference is that it took me a really long time to get to where we are. Like other people have partners, and yes, they split but you've been doing it since 2019. You've done more transactions than me in half the time because you we're able to accept help or whatever you'd say, and get there faster. So it's like, if whatever the saying is that I'm going to butcher, but it's like, if you want to go far, whatever, if you want to go fast, go together.
Go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Right?
Yeah, that's perfect. It's like, so I went alone, and it took me forever to get there. It's like
you went far.
Yeah, but I could have got here 5 years ago. It's like, so I totally get the partnership aspect of it. What it struggled for me was that I just wasn't able to you're limited by yourself at that point if you're the only person. That's the counter argument to the partnership, is that I was like, well, I'm doing great, and then I hit a ceiling of deals 2 years in a row, and I was like, well, I don't think I can literally do any more than this number of deals, so I have to keep hiring. Whereas
how many deals was that?
It was 35.
Okay,
35 a year. So
why couldn't you just do more marketing and get more deals done?
Because I was doing the whole thing, right? So it's like by doing,
you literally had too many calls.
Yeah, it's
coming in,
too many flips going on.
If you would have started more marketing, you would have had no system to
overwhelmed.
You wouldn't have been able to keep up with it.
Yeah, I mean, 35 deals by myself seemed like a lot. So it's like, but it's like, I guess a partner early, you would have hit that ceiling earlier. Maybe you would have figured out, hey, you should hire an acquisitions person sooner than 10 years into the business.
Yeah,
maybe. So I mean, that's what
it's all up to how you want your business to look.
Yeah.
I've had moments of regret where I'm like, I wished I wouldn't have scaled as fast as I did.
Yeah.
Because I feel like when I scaled, it was great. It was fun. I did 73 deals in year one and even more year two, but there was a lot of pieces that I was just jumping completely over and just skipping them. Just processes, not having things written out, not having a process. It was just like, okay, I'm going to do it.
I guess why did it matter if you were having good results?
Because I was burning out.
Oh, you were tired. You were working too much.
The whole idea for us to get into real estate was to free us of our 9 to 5, and to not just in the security blanket that a 9 to 5 provides, but the amount of time that I was spending there was curbing the father figure I wanted to be for my children. So going into real estate,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was like, I want to be a better dad, so I need to have more time on my hands.
How did you know that you weren't being the father you wanted to be?
It was pretty easy. I mean, I would wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, not see my kids.
Yeah, you did see them.
I was gone, and I would get home at 6:30, 7 o'clock, have dinner, give them a bath, and put them in bed again.
Right.
It's like, when was I a dad at that point?
Yeah.
I was
an hour a day. Yeah.
I was a nanny. That was it.
Yeah.
I came home, fed them, and bathed them, and that was it.
Right.
How did you realize it? Because a lot of people don't have self-awareness. They're like, I'm doing this for the family. But then the family's like, well, we didn't want this anyway. And then they get mad at each other.
I don't know, man. That was just something that I've been hyper affixed to. I had in my mind the kind of dad I wanted to be. And I also knew the kind of career I wanted to have. But as I was in the midst of the career, it was like, I can't be dad and have this. So there had to have been a different journey to go on to get to be the dad I wanted to be. and still have the success I wanted to have. So that was like, let's go find that.
You're a good person.
We got lucky finding wholesale because it was like I didn't have to search very long to find something that would fulfill the satisfaction.
Right.
So
you traded your 9 to 5 for a 7 to 7.
yeah, basically.
It's like you're like,
so
wait, hold
how
on.
did you like start undoing that?
I mean, it was like you walk
Now
into
you had more
it,
money after
you
doing
had
all
more
those
money,
deals, right?
Yep, you
So
had
what
more
did you
money, but it was
You
like
use the money to get some time back, right?
100%. So you start paying, you have excess money. So the first thing, it was also somebody speaking into my life too. Somebody that was an investor that was like, dude, you need to hire a transaction coordinator. Like,
Troy Kearns.
Troy. Yeah. He's like, you got to hire a TC because you can't do everything you're doing and that. And the conversation was really easy. He's like, call my gal. She'll do it for you right now. And it was just like fixed. And within a week, seriously, all the time I spent putting contracts in DocuSign, sending contracts, coordinating stuff with title, give it to somebody that knows more about the process than I did.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I've got my time freed up.
There you go.
The biggest thing then is don't replicate the problem. Don't go and fill
the
you
time
just
with
got
more
your
wasted time.
Yeah, I'm horrible
So-
at that.
Before you hired somebody,
Yes.
did you like have anything written down? Because you were just winging it,
No,
right?
dude, I had nothing
So,
written down. No processes.
It would
no
be
nothing.
advisable to write down what you do
Totally.
before you
Yes.
hire somebody, right?
100%.
Did you do that?
No.
Oh, okay. Then they have something written down now?
Oh yeah, we got
Okay.
everything is organized now.
We're getting there. Yeah.
But again, like we had to hire somebody to come and do that part for us too.
Yeah.
So I liked what you did. You had them listen to your speakerphone calls and you kind of coached while doing it.
Yeah.
My mentor, he's always said, I videotape myself doing all the tasks that I do. Then I give it to the new hire and I say, you watch these videos and you make the SOP with the process and then send me what you wrote down and I'll say, yep, you got it. And that shows that they actually understood what they learned from the video and you don't have to make the process.
Yeah.
So I like that.
Yeah, that's
that
good.
method.
Yeah. I mean, watch what I do and write it. If they can write it down, they get it. Yeah, that's good.
This is by far one of my favorite episodes.
I could tell.
Well, we got deep into the family, you know. I mean, but I mean, it's like that's the
Stuff
thing
that
of it.
matters.
You know, I wouldn't do it all on my own if I had to do it over again. Like, because if you know, I mean, like I said, you can get there. Like what you described, year one, you did 71.
Yeah.
It's like that's still more than I've ever done. Right? It's like so, and that
In
was
a
your
year.
first
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what you're
it's
saying.
like so. You know, you can go really fast if you have someone else, or I mean, you know, whatever. If you take advice from other people and whatever, you don't have to be like stubborn and do it all yourself. Like, why do that? You know.
Yep. Hindsight. It's
Yeah.
a wonderful thing.
Hindsight.
So you have 2 kids as well, right?
Yep. 2 and 4.
How's that balance for you?
Good. I mean, it's definitely like it's so hard. Like all our time is gone. You know, it's like where did the time go? Like of the like where did any
Every
free time
child you have, the
Yeah.
clock turns faster.
What's
Yeah,
the day in
it's
the
so
life
fast.
of somebody who does 60 deals a year and has
Sure.
2 kids? Like what's the morning, evening, and
Sure.
night?
All right. Yeah. Let's do
How's it
day in
go?
the life. So I wake up to the sound of my kids screaming. No, the infernal alarm clock.
Wow.
No, I'm just kidding. Like, you know, they wake me up every day
Yeah,
at
yeah.
7. Try to work out in the morning before I drop them off. Luckily, what I figured, I've never like commuted anywhere, you know, to work. So it's like everything has to be around here.
Work from home or you have an office
Before
nearby?
Yeah, I have an office on South Lamar, like down like on the main drag. But you know, it's like we in the same area we live, and then the kids go to preschool in the same area we live. You know, it's like everything is close. So it's like there's no like wait 30 minutes in the car, you know, drive
Awesome.
30 minutes in the
Yeah.
car. Everything has to be like for me centered around where we are living, so that it's as least amount of wasted time as possible. So I dropped them off at preschool, whatever, in the morning, go into the office, and then, you know, for 6 hours, 7 hours, something like that, end up picking them up. And then it's like, I mean, at this age, they're starting, like the 4-year-old starting sports. So it's like, go to a random practice and whatever. And you can't just drop them off. Like if it's a baseball practice, like I'm in the field with them, you know, like how do you catch a baseball, whatever. So it's like, that is just
You bring a whiteboard out, you're like,
that. Yeah, I know.
it's coming here. No.
It's like, wait, how do I teach a 4-year-old how to throw a ball? You know, it's like, oh my gosh, it's so hard. But you know that, and then eventually, you get home, you're like feeding them and put them down. It's like the day goes by like that.
Oh, yeah.
It's crazy how fast the day
It's
goes.
insane.
I mean, so
Do you? Okay, wow.
it's
I
crazy
can
how
just
fast
say
it goes.
copy and paste because it's the same.
That's how
thing.
that's
I
how
mean,
your day
it's-
is too. Yeah.
It's crazy.
So
very wild.
you do get to work from like 9 to 4.
Yeah, like not 10, like 9:30 or 10 to 4.
Yeah.
And then when I'm home, like, still like doing stuff, of
Yeah.
course. Like, I mean, I've never been someone who's like, I just clock in and clock out. Like, it's like, oh, they go to sleep at 8 o'clock or something. Okay, well then let's try to get like an hour of stuff done while I like watch TV and see my wife. It's like it's like there's something else that came up in the 5 hours since I left the office. It's like how long.
Do your kids know what you guys do?
Oh yeah.
You think?
No. No way.
Mine know all of the verbiage and lingo to what
amazing.
we do. Like,
That's funny.
and we talk about it regularly because like I've got one of my kids that saves every freaking penny that kid gets. He saves it, and I'm like, dude, you almost have enough to buy a house, and it would be a cheap, crappy house.
Yeah.
But you start there, and you just build
Amazing.
up. So yeah, they know that we buy and fix and sell houses, and I hope that
That's cool that it's something they can see.
yeah.
Right.
I hope they can run with it when they get their time.
Your kids do too.
The 4-year-old, like, I mean, obviously the 2-year-old has no clue what's going on of that, but
Yeah.
but the 4-year-old, I was like, he like I mean, they're so young that I was like, yes, I, ask people if they want to sell their house and I give them money for it. It's like very like just they have no idea what's that aspect of it, but I did like take them to a flip. I went out to drop up. We're trying this crazy like door knocking thing where we're dropping Post-it notes off on really bad houses. From an
that's
earlier,
fun. You
from an
brought it with
earlier
you?
message. Sorry, an earlier podcast like that you did with the guy who does the Post-it notes.
Yeah, and he got a stamp from Etsy.
I was on this morning on Etsy trying to find out where he got those stamps, but
I want it.
yeah, I want those stamps. But so anyways, I was like out with my kid with the 4-year-old on Sunday, and I was like, oh, there's one of the houses that we were gonna do is like right here. So I just like dropped a Post-it off, and he was like, what is that? I was like, oh, it's a little note from daddy to the
Yeah, love it. It's a good way to get them involved.
yeah, get them involved. I don't know, they like it.
Well, I like that we finished up the conversation with the family side because it's so important. I hear it so many times.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, guys. And Chip Ferguson with Smooth Closing has done his first podcast. It's been an honor to have you on as a guest.
Yeah,
that was a
thank
lot
you.
of fun.
Yeah, it was
I
fun.
know you
It was
had
a great
fun.
time.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Let me know in the comments what you guys took away from this podcast. And Chip, can you let us know where people can find your business or
Sure.
your social media?
Yeah. So my Instagram is just the Chip Ferguson, and then if you need any help, especially in the Texas area, like selling a deal or analyzing a deal, you can email me. It's just chip@smoothclosing.com. Happy to help anybody any way I can there. If we can provide any value to you. So don't
Always
worry
very
about
valuable.
reaching out.
People are always wondering what they do with their deals when
Yeah.
it's the first one.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's when they're nervous. They're like, oh, am I going to close it? Is this
hard.
the right price?
Yeah.
Is
So,
this the
thank
right
you.
price? Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Exactly. No worries. Yeah.
All right. That's a wrap.
Sweet.
Thank you so
All right.
much, man.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the DealMachine Real Estate Investing Podcast. Please leave us a review and follow along wherever you're listening to your podcast.